This is Kia's latest car and it's called the EV4. Surprise, surprise, it's an electric car. And surprise, surprise, it's bigger than the EV3, one of their other models. But the most important thing we need to consider here is it does almost 400 miles on one charge, and it's kind of quietly gunning for the realm of being the electric Golf. Even though Volkswagen say the ID3 is the electric Golf, we know now that really the ID3 is not the best car in its class. And effectively, Kia and Hyundai and a couple of other brands are almost becoming more VW than VW. In this episode, I'm going to drive it, have a look around it and see what I think of the new Kia EV4, which comes in both hatchback and also fastback derivatives. I'm Jonny Smith. This is The Late Break Show. The Kia EV4 is actually the first electric car from Kia to be made in Europe. It's made in a factory in Slovakia, which effectively replaces the Ceed, which has been in production now for ages. That car's finally been retired, and we have this. Like all electric Kias and Hyundais, you've got the eGMP, or eGimp as I call it, platform, which is bespoke for electric cars. So it isn't shared with piston-engined platforms. And this is front-wheel drive, like so many other Kias and Hyundais. In fact, I ran a Kia Soul EV for a year a while ago now. It's got the same power output and pretty much the same underpinnings. But obviously, that's probably doing it a disservice. It's moved the game on, it's improved the battery chemistry. Talking of which, there's two battery sizes to choose from. You've got the entry-level one, which is 58.3 kilowatt hours, which is I think 55 usable kilowatts. That starts at 34,000 quid. And then you've got the 81.4 kilowatt hour battery, which is probably the one most people are going to buy in this country anyway. That's what this particular example has got. And that will do up to 388 miles of range, depending on your wheel and tyre combination and stuff like that. The smaller battery will do 273 miles on a charge. Out on the road in the EV4. So the first thing I want to mention actually is not about how it drives, it's about the driving position. The seat is on its lowest position. It's electric because it's a top spec. And I feel like I'm still sitting really high. That probably is a positive for a lot of people because people like sitting high, which is why the whole SUV crossover, those genres are so popular. I don't really like sitting high in a car. I like to get as snug into the machine as possible. So I feel like I'm sitting in a really commanding position. So bear that in mind if that is a positive for you. So I feel like I'm way over the dash and I can see way over the base of the windscreen. My gosh, the headrests are good. Me and the videographer, we both got in and went, damn, Kia know how to do a headrest, and it's so true. It's these little things. And the little things add up to the big things, which is why Skoda, with its lovely little practical elements of car design, ultimately is a cooler brand right now than Volkswagen or Audi, I think. And that's why, in a way, the Cupra Born, which I did a road trip video on a while ago now, the Cupra Born is a better product than the ID3 on which it's based. Before we get out onto the more interesting roads, so the better spec car, this one, has a 366 mile range because of the larger wheels. This car is the first Kia that has been, I think, developed and obviously manufactured all in Europe. And as such, Kia has said the suspension is a little firmer for European tastes. What they're probably saying is British roads are shit and you need a slightly firmer chassis. And I understand that because a lot of Kias and Hyundais that I've driven historically are on the softer side. So that's fine if you're not wanting a sporty car. And to all intents and purposes, these types of cars, they're not for sportiness. They're for commuting A to B, long distance in comfort. And talking of which, very quiet. Very, very quiet. Now with the regen braking, with it now in its more advanced stages, you add a bit of regen, you take a bit of regen away, but now the car will, if you've specified to keep it on, I say stage 3, when you get back in the car, it should remember that rather than resetting completely. There are much faster cars. There are faster EVs, and I think there's 2 camps of EV owner, driver, enthusiast. One is, I want a really punchy, sporty, fast electric car, and I'm less bothered about range. And the other camp is, which I'm sort of in, the range is more important to me, and the comfort and the handling almost, rather than out and out power. And that's why cars like the Renault 4 and 5 are really good. They've got a great playful chassis, good steering, good feel, but a decent range. They're not quick. This, well, this is 7.8 seconds to 62 with the big battery, and I think it's 7.6 to 62 with the smaller battery, because a smaller battery car is lighter. But that means 7 seconds, you know. It's actually pretty good, but you got loads of torque because electric car, and the torque's the important thing. So it's now bonging to say I'm 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, which I don't want to know about. So I'm holding my finger on that button for 5 seconds, and I believe that should kill that off. And I'm going to hold my finger on the lane keep assist because I can feel the steering wheel wobbling, and that should kill that. You see, obviously there's a huge raft of safety stuff like most normal modern cars, and that's to comply with Euro NCAP and make sure that it stays as a 5-star or as near to 5-star rated car as possible. My argument to that is things like lane keep assist and relentless bonging actually has a detrimental effect and ultimately pisses you off and distracts you, which is entirely the opposite of what it's trying to do. I feel like I'm the adult, I'm driving the car, I'm responsible for my own actions. Stop talking to me and stop poking me. Otherwise I'm going to get really angry. And you don't want that. You know, I talked about like the VW thing earlier. Well, so I used to have an e-Golf, which was a normal Golf converted to electric just before the ID range came out. And weirdly, I loved that car. The range wasn't great. It was a while ago now. But the quality felt really good and it still felt very Golfy. ID3 came along and I think it's just not had the response that it should have had, and it probably isn't as VW as we'd wanted it to be, and that's why Cupra came along with the Cupra Born and actually made a better car really than Volkswagen themselves, bizarrely. And I feel like Kia and Hyundai, and as we go through this I'll show you, I feel like the quality and the reception of the badge is almost at VW level, if not beyond VW level when it comes to the fit and finish. I'm going to put the dimensions on the screen somewhere up here of the car, but basically I've looked at Golf Mark 8 and ID3 as a direct comparison. So it's 148mm longer than a Golf Mark 8, 166mm longer than an ID3, it's 2mm taller than a Golf Mark 8 and 51mm wider than an ID3, and 120mm longer overall than its other little cousin, the EV3. Now the EV3 is like a mini SUV looking thing or crossover. This is a hatchback, and that's why I wanted to give you those dimensions. But let's talk about the looks of it. Kia likes to be divisive, and Kia is being divisive with this design language. I was reading about it this morning. So Karim Habib, the design boss, he's like, I want to keep people interested, and it doesn't have to be handsome, I just want it to be talked about. And there's so many cars right now that look generic, and when I see them driving by or parked in a car park, I was on holiday recently in Malta and I saw loads of crossovers parked over. They all look the same. I couldn't really tell what they were, and I'm in this industry, which is embarrassing. The front is odd, right? And I'm looking at these star map kind of pixelated lights that are very vertical, and I was trying to work out what it reminded me of. And then it hit me. There is a car that used to be on sale, not in this country, but in Japan, called the Toyota Will Cypher. Look it up if you haven't heard of it. And it has these really odd, kind of droopy vertical lights. I don't think it's handsome, but I think it's interesting. And it's when you come around to here, if you come around and you look down the side of the car, you've got a strange bonnet, double angled bonnet. And there's loads of very odd shapes here. There's almost a Lamborghini thing going on here where the bonnet goes duh, then duh, then duh. It's like a more sit up and beg version of Lamborghini design language, I think. Now, because this is the GT line, which is the GT line S is the top spec, GT line is the middle, and then Air is the entry level. The Air might be my favourite, but I'll come back to that. But because this is a higher ranking car, all the plastics are gloss, whereas on the lower ranking car, these are rougher plastics and a little bit more sacrificial. Here, the wheels on the top spec car, and thus this actually damages your range a little bit. This will do, I think, 366 miles WLTP rather than 388, because mostly of these are 19s. Yeah, 215, 50, 19 Michelins. And these wheels, which are okay, but they're a little bit generic. I much prefer the wheels of the entry-level car, which is 17s, and I'll show you what they look like now. Look at it. I love it. It looks like a wheel trim, but it's not. It's a metal wheel with this centre bit. It looks like a two-spoke, and it looks fantastic when it's turning. Real like 80s futurist look, which suits the car. The other one, quite generic. So I prefer the entry-level wheels and probably the rougher plastics, but let's look at the profile on the hatchback. It's got this really unusual band which goes around here on the D-pillar, and it reminds me of 70s Landau roofed, padded vinyl roofed American cars where they used to divide the roof from the metal bit with the old 70s padded vinyl. It's very odd. But it's interesting. Handles that come out now and they go flush, that's pretty normal for so many cars. And then you've got these shaped arches, which I think I've seen on the EV9, going into a very abrupt back, which is kind of like almost an estate car, perhaps. And then again, vertical stacked lights, very chiseled here. The back has elements like this kind of bit here, and the fastback, which I'll show you shortly, very much like the EV6, which is probably quite an old car in terms of like been on sale for a while, but it doesn't look older. I still think it looks very fresh. It's almost concave here. Yeah, it's almost concave. What do you think? Is it a bit too weird? But I think it's interesting, and I think with Volkswagen and the ID3 is too bland. So it doesn't matter whether I think it looks weird or not. What we do know is it's very slippery and efficient. I think it's 0.23 drag coefficient. So this front end definitely lends itself well to being a little bit more aerodynamic. And that's why it can get the range that it can get. And I guess also because it is a lower down car. But lower down, I say that, what I mean is it's not an SUV and it's not a crossover. It is a hatchback or a fastback. Kia is clearly not messing around. It's not a stupid brand. It knows that whilst a lot of territories like the UK really like their hatchback cars, they also know that a lot of other places like their saloons still. And that's why the EV4 is available as this, the fastback, the saloon. It has this really, really kind of camtail back end with a little bit of a duck spoiler. This looks more like the EV6 in many ways, I think, like a fastbacked EV6. Is it good looking? No, it's still really strange, but it's interesting and it's very efficient. You can only buy this in the UK with the big battery and the higher grade of trim, which is why it's ever so slightly more expensive. But anyway, let's talk about boot space, because this, the EV4 being a saloon, still has an electric boot. very wide aperture, and it goes in for miles, a bit like cars like the Tesla Model 3 and the Porsche Taycan, electric saloons, which have a capacious boot, but it's more of a shallow height, big depth. 490 litres of space. The EV4 hatch, ignoring this because it's largely pointless and it'll end up in your garage, and this is a false floor, 435 litres. So that has the bigger boot, but this probably has the more relatable, more useful shape. Interesting. I'll put above me some of the direct rivals of this and their boot spaces. So you can pull this out and drop it down. I will now demonstrate. And under here, this little false floor, you've currently got the vehicle to load adapter and the home charger lead and things like that. So that is your extra little boot space. And then this can drop down into there if you are more bothered about space and less bothered about having a flat threshold. But I do think it could be a little better. And these wheel arches do bring it in ever so slightly, and this is annoying me already, and this needs to just get in the bin or just be a piece of fabric. As I said before, all of the EV4s come as standard with vehicle to grid and vehicle to load, and this is the reminder of what vehicle to load is. Basically, it's a normal plug here, and then this here is your little adapter for a 3-pin plug. So you can go camping, or you can power all manner of things. You can vacuum your car out in a car park, or use a toaster if that's your game. I've just noticed there's a little pull lever here, which means you can release the seats. So so whilst it is classed as a saloon, it's a saloon where you can drop those down, which is really good. And what I would say is a lot of people discount saloons for being not practical. They're actually way more practical than you think. And the majority of the time you don't need a boot, which has a really tall aperture, unless you've got dogs or things like that. So again, it's a lot of people think they need to buy an SUV for a big boot. Really consider the size of the car with the size of the boot, because so many big cars literally don't have very good boots. So 80 something kilowatt hour battery pack, I mean, it's obviously a big old battery. The whole car weighs almost exactly 1900 kilos, 1.9 tons. So for a car that can do nigh on 400 miles, possibly more in a city environment, but in the real world in this kind of temperature, probably like what, 340, 350, which is enormous. That's not a heavy car. People who inherently don't want to consider EVs, they hate them, will say that's ridiculous. Just look at the weight of a piston car now. Look at the weight of an average piston car of this size. I think you might be shocked. It feels like 100 years ago that I first drove EVs like the EV6, the Ioniq 5, the first ID3. But what I would say is that the Ioniq 5 and the EV6, they still feel very modern to me, and the range is still very relevant. But what the Koreans have done is, and this is why they are the envy of the Japanese, I think, and the Germans, and and the rest of Europe right now, is that companies like Kia are going, we're going to make a whole raft of piston cars, including plug-ins, PHEVs, and we're going to make a whole interesting, practical raft of EVs. You just pick what you want for your lifestyle. They're not pigeonholing their way in, and they're not refusing to build certain genres of cars. They're doing a very bloody good job at pretty much all of them, and that's amazing. What is weird is you've got to still physically turn the car on. There's an on button here, so it's not like a Tesla or Polestar, for example, where you get in, as soon as your arse is on the seat and you press the brake pedal, it's alive, and as soon as you remove yourself from the car, it's off. We actually left the car on because I got out of it and walked off with it in park, and it just stayed on for 5 minutes in the car park. So bear that in mind. Whilst, yeah, the chassis is definitely better than previous Kia Hyundai products I've driven, and it feels more European. That's a plus. Steering's still not brilliant. It's very easy listening, so if you're just chilling, you won't really notice. But definitely not got the involvement of like the Renaults, the electric Renaults that I've driven recently. And if you haven't seen my Renault 4 review, have a look at that. I'll put it on screen or also in the description. I like the fact that when you've got the range on the screen here, it says 282 mile range at present. It's taking into account what heating you've got on and how you're driving it, how hard your throttle foot is. But it says, oh, you could get a maximum of 406, which presumably is like urban, city, sub 30 mile an hour type stuff. And then you've got a minimum, if I was driving it like a complete flute, it's 198 miles. But it's good to just have those little parameters in your peripheral vision, really. So if you're listening to the bonging, I've turned off the speed limit and lane keep assist. It's constantly flashing at my eyes to say that maybe my eyes are not paying attention, or my eyes are no longer there. I genuinely think at the moment, because it's doing it relentlessly, that it thinks I don't have eyes, or that my eyes don't work. Modern technology, ladies and gents, double-edged of the sword. So as is tradition with Korean cars, you have your relaxation sounds of nature baked into the infotainment. And when I originally saw this, which would have been 5 years ago or more, I thought it was probably a bit cheesy. Do you know what? It's not. It's brilliant. I really... Can I just have a moment? Is that all right? Bloody hell, I'm living in my own TV advert. That's phenomenal. It has a really quite strong effect. Yeah, so there we go. Lively forest. So, the inside, the cabin. It's a very similar, and this is a good thing, it's a really similar looking interior to the EV3. And if you haven't seen the review I did of the EV3, it will have been probably a year and a half ago now. Go and have a look. I'll put it in the description and I'll put it on screen now. What you're greeted with is this double width, not too big and intrusive, I don't think, screen. And obviously you can change this. And this is now version 3 of Kia's infotainment. Physical tabs here for the climate control, and then these haptic little buttons. You might not see them on camera, but this is for your map and your home screen, and you get a little bit of feedback from these, which is really lovely. In terms of the plastics and the finish, I think it feels really good. It definitely feels cheaper down here than up here. That's a given, really. And tons of storage. You've got wireless phone plinth just here, adjustable cup holders here, a good old rubberized mat down there, another one here, a bit going on up here. So plenty of storage and plenty of charging abilities down here, USB-Cs, that kind of thing. What I would say is this is the GT Line S, so this is the most expensive car. Prices start at 34 grand, as I said, and go up to about 43. This is at the 43 end, and one of the things you get is electric seats and quite a lot of perforated pleather. The top spec car has the leather effect, the perforated. The perception for a lot of people is that that's more premium, but I think this stuff just feels more interesting and premium. I really believe it. And it has a green go faster stripe as well. Oh, and base model, manual adjustment, no electric bollocks. I love electric cars. I dislike all the unnecessarily electric help, like boots. Don't need it. Also, base model Air gets a 2-spoke steering wheel. Divisive. I prefer a 2-spoke. Goes with the 2-spoke kind of alloy wheels. Base model is better. Because this is top spec car, it comes with a sunroof, it comes with heated back seats, which the earlier ones don't. They all come with heated front seats, and I think they all come with heated steering wheels, which I've always said it is such a bonus for an electric car in a country like the UK. It means you use less power to keep your body and your hands warm rather than heating the whole cabin. But Kia and Hyundai have always had the really funky driver only ventilation system, so if you're driving the car on your own, you keep this zone warmer, you don't have to heat the entire cabin and waste needless energy. And because the battery sits down there, of course the floor is a little higher. I haven't gone in the back yet, let's do that in a minute, but it means you have, well, this is effectively a flat floor car, but they've just added a center console here. I do like it. It's very, very pleasant indeed, and I think the colour scheme that they've chosen is quite classy. And like I said before at the beginning of this video, I'm kind of starting to think that this is more VW than VW. So I'm climbing in the back behind myself. I'm 6'3", loads of knee room, which is great. Floor is a little high, but not too high compared to a lot of other electric cars. No hump in the transmission tunnel because it doesn't have a transmission tunnel. Cheeky little USB-Cs built into the seat, which we've seen before. I like the EV3. And again, these familiar shaped seats that look like ET's head. They adjust out, they're really comfortable, but also if you're smaller, like a child, and you're sitting in the back, you can see beside the seats. It doesn't feel too hemmed in. I've got loads of headroom up here. This little window here is quite discreet. I think it'd be better if it wasn't tinted, but loads of people like rear tints apparently. I'm over that. Top spec car like this, Harman Kardon audio system, which a lot of people will value. And I think there's an armrest like this. In fact, this is a really roomy car for the wheelbase. I'm really impressed with the way it composes itself over the ruts and things. It's great. And the promise of, if this was on the 17-inch wheels, obviously more range, but also probably an even better ride quality and cheaper tyres. Two things I'm totally bored with regular, normal, practical / family cars. Obsession with big wheels and low profile tyres. It's just so like unfashionable, I think now. I'm just bored of it. And two, as predicted, unnecessarily large SUVs that bring nothing to the game. More on that soon on the channel. We've got AI voice command with ChatGPT. You'll have to watch another channel for a demonstration of that, because I don't give a shit, and I don't see how helpful it will be, especially when you've got perfectly usable touchscreens and perfectly usable physical buttons. Why do I need that kind of stuff? It's got really good Android Auto and Apple CarPlay integration with the phone projection. Very, very easy on this car. And I without wanting to sound like an angry man, I think that loading cars with more and more technology is a backward step. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm talking bobbins or not. The game really is up for grabs now, isn't it? This is a general comment, not one aimed at specifically this EV4, but the game, the car game, the power struggle has been changing a lot lately, and I really do think that the Germans don't know what to do at the moment. They don't really know what to do. They don't know what products to build, and they don't seem confident. And the Japanese, they're not confident with EVs, but they're confident with certain other things, but a lot of them don't have their mojo. And yet here we are, historically saying the Volkswagen Golf is a safe bet as a fantastic all-round car, and it's classless, and it's quality, and you won't be disappointed. I would now beg to differ. I would say cars like this and plug-in hybrid and piston Korean cars are the Golf of now, and to do with quality and classlessness and tasteful aesthetics. I really do. I really think that we're there. And also the French, Renault. Renault are building some of the best cars on sale out there. They really are. Who would have thought that 20 years ago? When you watch a video like this about somebody reviewing a car and saying what they like, what they don't like, and giving you the facts, just bear in mind that I'm me. If you're thinking of buying a new car, irrespective of whether it's piston, electric, whatever, watch reviews, digest the facts and stuff, but please drive a car for yourself. Don't be afraid to go and test drive a car, ideally for more than a day if you can, because you might not like it, or you might prefer another aspect to it that I don't. I am astonished at the number of people that buy cars, expensive cars, off plan without even test driving them. That's terrifying to me. Terrifying. That's like that really, really bad TV show, Married at First Sight. Is the EV4 gunning for the Golf-like status within the EV realm? That was kind of the question at the top of this review. My answer is the EV4 is probably one of the best all-round products that we've ever seen from Kia. Definitely feels more European in its chassis, and it's a very, very good car, and it does nearly 400 miles. And it's affordable. Visually, aesthetically, I think it's challenging, and I think a lot of people will be a little bit scared of that, be it in this form or the fastback version. My personal opinion is this: it's so hard to fault Kia and Hyundai at the moment in terms of the all-roundness, the practicality, the range, the price point, the warranty. It's so good at the moment. So my counter is this: Kia and Hyundai are the new Volkswagen Group. They probably make the most tasteful, good value, classless vehicles on sale at the moment. Fight me in the comments if you disagree. The EV4 spec that I would go for is definitely the £37,700 Air, so entry level, big battery car. It'll do 388 miles. It's got the more interesting cloth interior, the more interesting, smaller, better wheels, and it doesn't feel any less luxurious whatsoever. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't looked at my previous EV reviews, which I've done many of, there's a playlist that shows all of those. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed to the Late Break Show already, I'd love you to subscribe. We have a merch shop, and we even have Patreon if you'd like to support us via Patreon. You get to see behind the scenes blogs from me, what I'm up to every week, and you get to watch videos like this earlier.